My guest today ran a marketing agency that he'll happily tell you he ran terribly. Then he took everything he learned and built one of the biggest fractional marketing networks in Australia. He's mentored over 300 businesses and he's seen every single marketing mistake there is to make. This is an honest conversation about what's actually working in marketing for normal businesses from someone who got it wrong before. Before we get started, over 90% of people watching the podcast aren't actually subscribed, and we release conversations like this every single week. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast down below. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're actually the first guest since we've rebranded the podcast.
Okay.
Which is very exciting.
I feel honored.
Bit of a privilege. So let's get straight into your story pretty much. You know, you started off in the marketing industry, actually marketing beer.
Yes.
Which is obviously a bit different to where you are now. So how did you get into that?
Yeah, I was in sales in the beer industry for a long time. I'd actually gone from hospitality roles back in London, working in bars and nightclubs and things like that. And that takes its toll after a while. There's only so many 4 a.m. finishes that you can do, no matter how fun they are sometimes. So I sort of transitioned from running hospitality venues to working in sales for what was Bass Brewers at the time. So that was one of the biggest breweries in the UK.
Yep.
Famous because it's the oldest trademark and the oldest trademark logo, I think, in the world or something like that. So.
Yeah.
So I went from that did sales for about 5 or 6 years, and then when I'd moved here, into Australia. I continued in sales, and then sort of within a year of being here, transitioned into a marketing team. So yeah, that was. I don't even want to think when that was, what year that was, because that makes it sound so long ago. But yeah, so I think the sales background was super helpful. I think anyone who goes into marketing or anything, anybody who goes into anything really should spend 3 or 4 years trying to sell something.
Yeah.
Because it really helps you in everything that you do in life.
I think even if you're just starting a business, full stop, understanding the fundamentals of sales and how sales works, and like you said, having that hands-on experience just makes it so much easier.
Yeah. It's being able to communicate and talk to people who are perhaps you may have met 30 seconds ago.
Yes. And
being able to sort of adjust your approach and your pitch depending on who they are and what they need. And being able to do that sort of on the fly as you talk to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's one important part of sales. And I think the other important part of sales is really, really, really understanding your product, understanding what it is that you're selling, the ins and outs of it. I think as soon as you do that, sales becomes so much easier.
Oh, 100%. I found, so we've just actually done a rebrand.
Yeah.
We're Boderia now.
Yeah.
And previously we were Adonis Media. And previously you have the agency model of, you come to me, you want lead gen, we'll do you lead gen. You come to me for a website, you'll do a website. But that's not how marketing actually works. You need a full system there.
Yeah.
So before, when we had, just we'll do anything you want, it was a bit like, oh yeah, like we can help you. Whereas now it's like, this is what we do. This is the impact we can have on you. And then when you're selling, it doesn't come across as selling. It just, you just actually believe in yourself. You believe in your product. You believe in what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other challenge with selling a lot of the time is that, and this goes from whether I'm walking into a pub in East London 25 years ago, or whether you're talking to a tech company, in Brisbane. Most of the time they don't know what they want. Most of the time they have no idea. They have a problem, but they don't know how they want to solve it or how it should be solved. And we'll talk later on about diagnosis and things like that. But the first challenge, I think, in any sales process is to understand the problem they think they have.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the problem they do have, but at least the problem they think they have.
Yeah.
And then you can talk to that and introduce what you do and how you can help them and things like that.
What they think they have is usually
No.
never what's actually the problem.
I often use the analogy of going to a mechanic is that if something's wrong with your car, all you know is that there's a light on,
yes.
right? But you don't know, if you're not completely savvy with what cars do, there's a light on, there's a problem. For you to then go into the mechanic and go, it's this thing in the car, is deluded and stupid, because it might not be that thing in the car. It's, there's a light on, but it could be one of a number of different things. So your job is to then give it to the mechanic and ask the mechanic to go and see what the problem is, and trust that the mechanic's going to do the right thing and tell you what the problem is to stop the light coming on. So that's how I kind of see it from a business perspective, is that most businesses have got a light on. They think they might know what the problem is, but invariably it's not. It's not what they think it is.
I love that analogy. That is like spot on, exactly what it is. And you have people that they might go to like somebody that does a website, and then they're like, oh yeah, you need a new website, when it's not actually, the website could be
Absolutely
a multitude of different things, and having that full revenue system. So how did you end up getting into CMO? Because you founded that within 2020.
Yeah, that's a long story. It depends how long we've got here. So I got into marketing. I then got out of marketing. I didn't get fired from working with Lion Nathan. It was one of those kind of ones where they suggested I leave. One of those conversations. They actually offered me a job in Sydney. They were like, hey, we think you should go to Sydney, or we think you should leave. Wow, which was probably a fair assessment at the time. And if I'd gone to Sydney, they were offering me a job sort of in the marketing and branding team, which, again, on reflection, I should have taken, but, can't change my mind 20 years later. So then I kind of went out, ran an agency a bit for myself, did a terrible, terrible job. That's a whole nother story, Mike. That's a whole nother story.
Which is something you speak very, not proudly on, but quite confidently on, that you ran it very bad. Not
it was terrible.
People can come out and say, that they ran that business terribly.
I can make a long list of all the things that I've done very badly. I always say to people, I was in a band in the UK. So this would have been early 2000s, late 90s. We were just terrible. I still have the music and I still listen back to it sometimes. I've got it's on my iTunes, and every now and it comes on rotation, and I'm just like, oh God, it's terrible. It's really bad. And funnily enough, I still talk to one of the band members. He's still a friend of mine. He's in the UK, and we joke about how dreadful we were. But I think that's a very it's a fantastic self-actualizing kind of thing that you can do, is accept that you are not good at certain things, or that you've done something extremely badly, because that's the only way that you're going to get any better at is to admit that you were bad. But yeah, that business was just.
What were some of the things that you would categorize as like running it terribly?
I went into business with the wrong people. So I had business partners. Now, that's not a slight on them. It was just not the right people. We were not the right people to be together running a company. So I think that was number one. The second thing was believing that the more staff that you had, the better your business was. I kind of had this thing about, we wanted a big team, it was that sort of egotistical kind of, hey, we got 15 staff and all this kind of stuff. And the main mistake there was going, hey, let's hire someone and then fill up their capacity, rather than wait until you've got almost too many clients and too much work before you hire someone. So there's a balance between doing that, because you obviously don't want to piss off your clients. But yeah, I kind of had this obsession with having staff, and all you need when you've got that big team is one or two bad months, and you're dead. Yeah, you're in a lot of pain, and we were. And it wasn't so that we had the bad months, because we were kind of consistently growing. But what we had was 2 or 3 clients that was very, very slow in paying us. Yeah. So that was one. And then we had one client that just point blank refused to pay us. And at the time it was about, I think, $40,000, which doesn't seem a huge amount. But all of a sudden that put a complete sort of spanner in the works in terms of cash flow and paying people and all that sort of thing. And then you spend a lot of time trying to chase that money, and that's just, And then at that point I realized we weren't ever going to get it. So you're then going, shit, we're in trouble here. Yeah. There was a category of things that we did, wrong. Sorry, different categories of things that we did wrong. People, financial management, all these kind of things. We produced some great work, and we had some really great people working for us. And, I was very proud to say that a lot of them have gone on and still doing really, really good things in very senior roles. But yeah, it was a fuck up.
But I feel like a lot of those things that you've pointed out are quite common in business. Just
absolutely,
like very common. And especially with the cash flow, I feel like in the marketing industry, it's very common for people to say, oh, I'm not going to pay you that then.
And we still see it now. We still have people who are just going to go, we have a big client in Sydney that just doesn't pay us. I mean, they do pay us, but they're slow and they're late, and we chase them 10 times and then they pay us. And we've tried, in this new business to move everybody into a system where they're either paying up front or they're on direct debit or all those kind of things. And that has kind of helped massively. Yeah. And we put security deposits in place. So if they don't pay us, they lose their security deposit. So that has been super helpful and has really, softened the blow of people being difficult. But it still happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just go, I mean, we've had one client that we've worked with now for, must be coming up to about 10 years now, maybe 8 years. Never paid us on time, ever. And we just sit there and go, but they've paid us.
You know it's coming. And
we know
it's
like, coming.
Oh,
You know it's coming. They have always paid us.
And they're usually
but never on time.
Yeah. They're usually the clients that don't, they're not the ones that are nagging you.
No.
They're very easy. Yeah. It might be a bit late, but it's like, it's coming.
We've had them for a long time. And every now and again, we get new work from them. And every now and again, we go, hey, we're going to send this invoice. And it will disappear into a black hole of not being paid for 3 months. But eventually, it will find its way into our bank account.
I think that's one of the hardest things, even when you come in any business. Like, even just speaking to our clients, they have problems with also getting paid.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing in every single business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's only going to get worse. Changes in terms of how people are paid, payday super and stuff like that. You can't not pay people their superannuation now. I went to try and help a business out 2 years ago, small hospitality. It was pubs and bars, and she hadn't paid the staff for 6 months their superannuation. She was like, "Oh, we'll get round to it. They don't mind. They're all right." And I'm like, "Can't do that anymore."
Yeah, that's illegal.
No, that's not. And I understand why it's illegal. I understand that those changes had to happen.
Yeah.
But that's going to hurt a lot of people, and that's going to cause some problems.
Yeah. So when you're running, a team of 15 plus, and cash flow gets tight, what are the kind of things that you used to do?
You just didn't pay yourself. The money came from somewhere else. You didn't pay yourself. You didn't pay the landlord.
Yeah.
Anything else that you could not pay. I have to say, in all that time, I always paid the staff.
Yeah.
But again, I was late paying superannuation. I was late paying the tax office. The staff always got paid, but somebody else who I owed money to didn't get paid.
Yeah.
And then when I got out of it, I sat there and just went, oh my, I have all this debt and I can't get rid of this debt and shit. And that was where it all sort of fell apart.
Yeah.
I was given warnings, and it was just that kind of belief that all of a sudden you have a good month, right? And you just go, oh my God, how much have we billed? Like, we billed $100,000. That's fantastic. And then next month we build $120,000. This momentum is never going to stop. And you have that optimistic, almost delusional.
Because you set the bar so high now that it's like, oh, it's incrementally increasing. It's not going to drop.
Cemoh, my current business, we had a month back in about 4 years ago where we built something like $350 something thousand, right? Which was about $60,000 up on the previous year. It was going like this. And we were all sort of going, hey, this is awesome. Oh my God, this is fantastic. It's never going to stop. And we just kept hiring people. I was making the same mistake again. I kept hiring people. I was going, let's get more people in doing this. We had our own in-house videographer. I'm like, why need an in-house videographer? And then the wheels just fell off completely in the space of 2 months. Contracts that we had ended. We knew they were going to end. Like, I don't know whether we were just completely delusional or something, that someone was going to go, hey, yeah, let's carry on for another 6 months or something like that. But they just ended. And all of a sudden they dropped off a cliff. And that was at the same time I'd gone through a marriage separation. And so that was all happening at the same, it was
a time.
That was, yes, that's the best way of describing it. A time. Yeah. But previously it was just going like that. And we was going, hey, let's just keep going, throw fuel on the fire. Let's keep growing. But it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And I've learned that lesson, and now I plan for that.
Yeah.
Not to say I'm not still going to make the same mistakes again, but at least I know this. At least I'm aware of the mistakes I'm making this time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing, is being self-aware in those mistakes. And improving from there. You're never going to be able to improve and learn and grow if you don't make mistakes.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's how people play sport, is that you consistently make mistakes. And they talk about, Federer and, Tiger Woods and basketball players, about how many shots that they actually miss and all those kind of things. So you don't, you're going to have to make mistakes. You're going to have to miss at some point in order to get better at hitting the target.
So then you left that and then doing CMO now.
Yeah, I kind of, so that went on, the agency sort of went on for about 6 years, 7 years. And I got out just as my first son was born. So he's 10 now. So that was 2016. And I kind of just, when I left, I was kind of fortuitous. I built, and I say this to everybody who's sort of moving into a consultant role, and I say this to all the CMOs who want to come and work with us. When you leave a job, when you want to go and be a consultant, you're going to live and die by your network, who you know, and all those kind of things. And I fortunately left that role, and I think 3 people sort of emailed me in the first week and said, hey, we're looking for someone to come and work a day a week, 2 days a week. Can you help us out? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I kind of went into all these sort of small consulting roles, and that worked out really, really well. And that went on for a couple of years. And then people kept coming to me, asking me to do things that either I didn't want to do or I didn't have the skills to do. Someone would come to me going, hey, can you do a big Salesforce integration? I'm like, oh, you're in digital marketing. Can you do Salesforce? Like, no. But I'd met my current business partner. I'd been introduced to him through somebody, and he was like, yeah, I can do that. I said, well, go along. He went along, met the client, came back and goes, oh, I don't know, let's just quote them $10,000 to do that. And we did, and the client paid it. And we were like, okay, right, that seems like a... So he came on board. We had another year or so where we were doing just little consulting jobs. People were coming to us. We weren't really trying to find any work, but it was just the network, and people were going, hey, we need someone to do this. And so we were just taking all these things on. Eventually got an office, which I swore I wouldn't do, but we got another office again. It was above another agency in West End, and they were charging us like $500 a month, and we were like, yeah, okay, that seems reasonable. And and then we were just sort of doing these small jobs. Another couple of people that we knew came to work with us, 1 or 2 days a week. Both of them mums that just wanted a bit of flexibility in their work life. One was heavily pregnant. She was like, hey, I've got about 3 months. Can I come and do some work? And she did. And then I think then COVID hit. So that was February, March 2020. And Cemoh was born out of COVID. And I've told this story quite a few times, but we had Rebecca in the office, and she was pregnant. And it was February or March, and she was due to give birth, I think, June or July. But she was one of those women who got, I was going to say she got big. So they can't really say that about a pregnant woman, but it was one of those, she was big, right? She got pregnant, like she was big early, right? And she wasn't big, the baby was big. And so she just kind of sat at her desk and did this work, which was largely social media, email marketing, Facebook, those kind of things. And a client had rung us up, a client that we worked with for a couple of years, that rung us up and said, hey, my marketing manager's just left. I don't have anybody to do this. And Rebecca sort of overheard the conversation. She just went, I'll go and do it if it's a day a week, she goes, I'll go and do it. It was a chocolate manufacturer. So I think Rebecca was like, it's chocolate.
The benefits.
Yeah, the benefits of chocolate. So Rebecca went to the client. Client loved Rebecca. Client came back to us and said, hey, can I have Rebecca 1 day a week? Can I hire her from you? And we were like, yeah, okay. We had no framework for that. We had no contracts, paperwork, anything, because we were selling services at the time instead of people. And she came back, and we went, okay. And the interesting thing, and this is what I'm actually doing a podcast this afternoon for myself about the difference between how you price yourself versus the customer's expectations of what they should be paying. And if you get that wrong at the start, you fuck the whole relationship. Yep. You're never going to get that relationship back, no matter how much you try and claw it back. And I'll give you an example, because I'm talking a lot here. Sorry.
No, go for it.
We had a client approach us last week, a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, hey, I need this. And I introduced them to one of our consultants who lives on the Sunshine Coast, who has a background in that particular area and has done for about 30, 40 years. 20, 30 years. And I said to him, go and talk to the client. I trust him to have a conversation with the client. Go and talk to the client, see what they want, see if he can help. And he's going, yeah, had a great conversation with the client. He put a quote together, and then he sent the quote through to the client, and the quote was about $9,000. And I kind of almost had a heart attack. I was just like, what? Why the fuck did you lead with a quote for $9,000? Because it was a sole trader. So I'm sitting there going, there's no way this guy's got $9,000 laying about to invest in strategy. And what I would have gone in with a much lower figure, say 2.5, something like that. But I'd have built the remaining amount into follow-up support services, coaching, mentoring, whatever, so that I'd reach that amount, but not in one go.
Yeah.
Because then the client goes, oh yeah, $2,500, that seems reasonable, and I'm happy to sign up for 6 months. Whereas, I haven't got $9,000. So that's where you kind of go, not only to our point earlier on, where you're trying to understand what it is that you're trying to diagnose the mechanical failure of the client's car, you've also got to sit there and go, how much money has this client got to fix this problem? Because if they don't have $9,000, they're going to be driving back out of the lot with the light still on in their car, and that's the last you're going to see of them. There's no way you can go from quoting $9,000 to $2,500 expectation. There's no way you can meet in the middle, because the client's going to think, well, I'm getting half the job here. They're not going to do what they had originally quoted, and now I don't feel comfortable about it. So I don't know, we've gone off on a tangent there, but I don't know. I don't know how we got to that. The point of that conversation was when the client said to us, hey, we want to use Rebecca a day a week, I had to sit there and go, what was a sensible margin for us to make selling Rebecca versus what does the client expect to pay? So we kind of met somewhere in the middle, and the client was like, yeah, that's fine. And we sat and went, okay, well, that margin's not great. But the thing for us, it was just repeating revenue. And that client was with us for about 2 years. So that's where the model can work for us, is this smaller margins and just this repetitive, contract just going on and on and on. So we're not getting the $9,000 up front, but we're getting it over the space of a year, or, potentially even longer than that.
And that also happens the other way around. So when we first got into this model of revenue systems, we had our first client come on, and he was like, we want everything.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, we can do this. This is fine. Looked at scope of everything and pricing it up and everything, and it should have been well over like 15 grand, well over. Yeah. And because he was the first person to come on, we seen this as an opportunity to really showcase what we can do. So we did all this work for $6,000 a month, right? Because it was recurring, which was still good. We still got paid, definitely under what we should have got. And then it hit a point where it was like, all right, we need to, up this now, because we've doubled your revenue in 9 months. It's 12 grand. And then from that point, he was then like, well, you were doing this for 6 grand. Why am I paying 12 grand now? This doesn't make sense. So that also works the other way.
So that's where you go from 6 grand. You have to sit there and go, you can't go from 6 to 12, right? Because that's going to just kill it. Yeah. You have to sit there and go, hey, 6 grand, but here's an additional service for 2 grand. Yeah. Here's an additional service for 1.5 grand. Or how about we do these 3 additional services? You kind of, you've almost, or you just sit there and go, hey, we've made our bed, now we've got to sleep in it here. Yeah. There's not a lot we can do. But it happens at all levels. I was doing some coaching for a guy. Again, it was a sole trader. He was a tradie down on the Gold Coast. And he came to me going, I really want your help, just a bit of coaching. And I was like, I don't want to drive down the Gold Coast. And he was like, no, he said, let's just do, a Zoom meeting once a month. And I'm like, hey, that's fine. And he goes, look, can I just said to him, hey, we had a long conversation about how much. I just said, look, just give me $200 and I'll sit in a Zoom meeting for 60 minutes and that's that, And I like the guy. I was like, hey, that seems fair. It would be below what I would normally charge, but I was like, I like the guy. Yeah. And I must have coached him for 18 months. And there was 1 month, because I had access to his Xero. I knew how much money he was making, and there was 1 month he made $50,000, right? And he had no staff, or he was using contractors. So he cleared himself about 35 grand that month as a tradie. So a couple of weeks later, I said to him, hey, look, I'm going to put my price up now to $250. Never spoke to me again. Never fucking spoke to me again. For an extra $50. for an extra $50 for someone who'd been mentoring you for 18 months.
Yeah.
So I was just like, yeah, it is what it is. It's just like, you can't predict these things. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, clearly he wasn't in your ICP anyways,
No, he wasn't. But I often get a lot of these people where I just go, hey, if you just want to talk to me and I'm going to kick you about for 60 minutes, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
And I've done that. I did. My favorite one is the guys who are, he's a mural painter. So him and his wife have this mural painting business. He go and do schools or cafes, whatever. He's a fantastic artist. And yeah, I'd just gone into them and said, look, guys, just pay me by the hour. We'll catch up, because I can't really talk for longer than an hour anyway. I'm just like, no.
Clock out, yeah.
I've said everything I need to say in an hour. There's nothing I can say beyond an hour that's going to either land with them or it's going to make any difference. So there's no point in me talking for more than an hour. And it was just really simple stuff with them. I said, where are all your leads? How are you managing through these people that are looking for quotes? Who's chasing up the quotes? And we just put some systems in place, and the system was just a spreadsheet. And within about 6 months, they'd gone from doing $7 or $8 grand a month and barely surviving, and they were 6 months ahead planned, and there wasn't a month that they weren't making 20 grand.
That's awesome, yeah.
So it was largely 20, 25 grand. There was a month they were making 30 grand. Really, they got to capacity because he couldn't paint any more walls.
Yeah, only so many walls.
There's only so many walls he could paint in 30 days. But they were looking forward to actually having a holiday. They were going to have a couple of weeks off at Christmas and all those kind of things. So I was like, my work here is done. I can't. There's nothing. There was nothing we could do beyond that, because at that point they were like, they needed to hire staff to paint walls and they weren't going to do that. And I was like, hey, as long as you guys are making 20, 25 grand a month, as a family you were clearing, they could clear 300 grand a year. They were, still picking up the kids from school, still having that quality family time. He wasn't working. I mean, he was working long days sometimes, but she had that flexibility and all that kind of stuff. So for them, to me, that was a success. 30K a year, family unit, watching the kids grow up, having money to go on holiday.
Yeah. You got that freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't understand, can you explain what a fractional CMO actually is?
Good question. Because is it a consultant? Not really. Yes, no. Is it a part-time member of staff? Yes, no. It's hard to look. Essentially, it's you having a person in your business that is doing the job that normally you would have a full-time person doing the job. But you only really need them for a day, 2 days a week. So often people have CFOs that come in maybe twice a month and do things and all that kind of stuff. For a CMO, a fractional CMO is much the same. So it's having that sort of skill set, that senior skill set for project management, strategy, direction, but only having them a fraction of the time.
Yeah.
Hence the name. But I would say it goes beyond a bit. It goes beyond just being a consultant, because I always find consultants I always find short term. They walk in, tell you to do something, give you a plan, walk back out again.
Yeah, they're not actually there guiding you, helping you, putting things in place.
What we try and have is the fractional people that we look for or try and place are there in not full-time capacity, but they're there. They're part of the team.
Yeah.
They're, they're turning up to meetings. They're going into the office. They're part and parcel of the team, which is how when I was a consultant, I was operating. So I would go and be in the office with the client. And I'd often say to the client, hey, I'm here for 8 hours, 6 hours. I'm here for 6 hours. Never there for 8 hours. I'm here for 6 hours. I'm going to do other work while I'm here. So I'm billing you a fee to help you out for a month. But I'm here, I can be in the meetings with vendors, suppliers, management, whatever. I'll be in all the meetings, but I'm going to take other calls. And most of the time, clients were happy with that. They were like, well, we weren't expecting you to be completely focused on us for 6 hours. But then what they would do is they were expecting me to answer the phone other days or reply to emails or, so that's kind of that fractional, I think is still, you're still invested. You're part of the team. You want to see success. And there's an argument that most fractional marketing people, fractional CMOs, should be good enough to eventually do themselves out of a job. The business should grow so well that they go, hey, we need a full-time person in here now. So, that was a very long-winded answer, but that's kind of where I see it. It's not a consultant. It's not a part-time person. I think it feels it's somebody who's more invested.
Yeah.
And someone who becomes part of the team and more integrated into the company than just than a consultant.
So you got into doing that through Rebecca, kind of seeing that kind of model, that framework, and just expanding it.
And it's funny because again, we like you said earlier on, is that you go out and you try and be all things to all people, and someone says, hey, can you do this and can you do that? The interesting thing we're finding now, I think it's an advent of AI and people using AI, is that fractional CMO role is more an executional role than it is a strategic role. And I think this plays to this shift that's going on in industry and our business and lots of businesses at the moment, where I had someone say to me, I've got this specific way that I do marketing strategy and I've trademarked it. And it's this kind of, it's my proprietary strategic framework. And I just went, you're smoking crack, because there is nothing that you can create from a proprietary sense that isn't being replicated by ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. There's nothing proprietary in strategy anymore. I can sit there and I've done a 27-page strategic document with me and Claude just having a chat with each other and being plugged into the company's data and figures and things like that. So I find now that there's the need in businesses is not so much people saying, hey, I need strategy, I need to know what I should be doing. That's relatively easy solvable problem. The thing that businesses miss is the actual executional capacity on a consistent basis. So this podcast is a good example. I had someone approach me 2 months ago going, I want to start my own podcast. And I'm like, yeah, we hear that every month. You probably hear that every month as well. There's this graveyard of a million dead podcasts out there, But he was in an industry that he was very well known, well respected. And I was like, hey, it's probably a good idea. But I said to him, this is all about consistency. There's no point in you doing one or two, because every podcast, 99.9% of podcasts die after episode 3. Yeah. Something like that, whatever the stat is, right? Businesses lack the consistency to execute stuff internally. And that's where I think the opportunity is now. So having someone like you in a business that says, we're going to do a podcast every week is absolutely imperative. The AI is not going to do that. Somebody's got to set this equipment up. Someone's got to book the guests. Someone's got to brief the guests, make sure they know where they're going. If a guest doesn't turn up, someone's got to rebook that. The AI is not going to do that. That person that can confidently execute a strategy and plans is massively valuable, I think, in the business. And whether that's in marketing or whether that's in finance or operations or sales or whatever, that's what I think is going to make the difference moving forward.
So what are your thoughts on AI and the way things are going?
I probably would have. I was I was a bit standoffish. I mean, I do ChatGPT. I've moved to Claude. I use Claude a lot now. So I was a bit standoffish about 3-4 months ago. And then I started another business, which we'll talk about in a sec. But I've used Claude. It's a retail business and it has an e-commerce arm to it. I've used Claude uploads everything onto the e-commerce site. It double checks the weights, dimensions of every product. It writes the descriptions for every product. It takes things in and out of stock as they're there or they're not there. It flags when there's a problem with something. It doesn't always get everything right. It took some stuff out of stock it shouldn't have taken out of stock the other day, but I can literally get a supplier invoice arrive, give it the PDF of the supplier invoice. As long as that invoice has the barcodes on it, it's in stock, creating new products even in the space of 5 minutes. I started using the design side of it to say, hey, can you design me a A1 banner? I've given it the logos. I've given it everything it needs, and now it's just creating. It created, I think, 10 shelf talkers for the retail that I then sort of put in plastic stands, get the staff to put in plastic stands, and they put on the shelf. I did that. He's doing each one in about 2 minutes, following a template, bang, 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 bang. And I've, in the last few weeks, just gone, fuck, this is disturbingly easy.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm looking at it now just going, that's a full member of staff there that was doing all of that and isn't doing that now because Claude's doing it. I'd actually left it, I'd shut the laptop down, but I'd left it earlier on building a style guide for all of my point of sale and everything. And it was just doing that happily. And it's not the AI slop that you see, you know, the posters that you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
That everyone.
Straight ChatGPT one.
Yeah.
A prompt that says, make me this poster.
Yeah. And it looks terrible.
Yeah.
But I've created these posters and these point of sale and all this kind of thing, which is absolutely spot on in terms of design and look and feel. And I'm just sitting there going, I could have asked. I've got graphic designers that work for me. Jess, who's my main marketing person, is a 10 years graphic design. I could have asked her to do it. It could have taken me a couple of weeks to get it back from her because she's busy. I've got it done in 2 minutes. And to a spec, when I was doing A1 call flutes the other day, that I could send to the printer, and the printer was like, yeah, this is fine, we can print this. I'm like, oh. But the difference is, could anyone do that, is the question. I've come from a background in marketing for 20 odd years, so I know when things look good and don't look good. I know when design is good, design is shit. There's still this kind of taste and knowledge element that you can't rely on the AI for.
Yeah.
And that goes from design, looking at data, you know, operational, whatever it is, it can churn this stuff out. And the strategic document it did for me the other week, I read it through and I was like, everything it's saying is right, but it's kind of missing the mark somewhere along the line.
Yeah, it's missing the whole point of...
Yeah. It's like pointing out all the things that need to be fixed, and it's right. But as I went back to it and said, you're kind of missing the bigger picture here. Where's this product trying to get to? And the thing it had kind of missed was the nuance in the creative and the nuance in the messaging. Because it had seen all the numbers with this. It was like, don't do that campaign, and that campaign's not running properly, and that's return, that ROI is terrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So it solved all those problems, but it just hadn't quite got the nuance of the fact that the creative, the messaging was off. And it didn't know how it was supposed to be right. So that's where I then go, okay, well, at least my 20 years of experience is now good for something here.
It's coming into play.
Yeah, it's teaching, it's having that dialogue with the AI going, what about this? What about that? You know, but if I turn around to it and say, hey, go and look at these 6 competitors and do an assessment analysis or a SWOT analysis of all these 6 competitors, bang, it's done it in 10 minutes.
Which would have maybe taken somebody, you know, half a day to do.
I just would never have done it.
Or, yeah.
Because I'm lazy. And this is the thing I also find is that, you know, people go, oh, it's allowing me to move quicker. It's allowing me to do more work. But it's also allowing a lot of people to do things that they would never have done in the first place.
Yeah.
So you talk about those ChatGPT posters, the AI slop, and people criticize them. And I just go, yeah, but I saw a food truck do one the other day, right? And people will go, oh, you should have asked a graphic designer. I'm like, he was never going to ask a graphic designer.
No.
Graphic designer was going to charge him hundreds of dollars that he wouldn't have been able to afford. And now he's got this cool little thing that he can share on social media and tell everyone about his food. So I think it's to a degree, it's obviously helping people be more, you know, move faster and more efficient, but it's also democratizing design. It's allowing people to do things they just couldn't do before, you know, and just say, hey, I need to create a poster for my kid's dance recital, you know, on Thursday. People would just never have done that, you know, or they would have tried to use Canva and it would be okay. Or even before Canva, what would have you done?
Yeah.
You know, you might have tried to use Word. But yeah, I think it's AI is doing a lot of things, and I think we're all still trying to work out how it's going to affect us. But where I see it from my benefit is it's allowing me to do a lot of things, a lot of analysis, a lot of small jobs that I would have paid someone else to do, but also that potentially someone would have taken, a week to turn around.
Yeah.
It's now been turned around in minutes.
I 100% agree with you. I think AI with the efficiency side, it's just making everyone so much more efficient.
Yep.
And even in terms of like our platform, Derek, the CTO of Boderia, he built the platform from the ground up. And for him, he already has that fundamentally understanding of software and how it should be
Yep.
written, and he's
Yep.
built it himself. But now utilizing AI, he's able to get things done that would have maybe taken a couple of weeks,
Yep.
done in a day.
Yep.
And then, but because he has the understanding of it, he's able to go back and say, okay, there's this bug, I know how to fix this. I think that's one thing that I'm seeing is there's a million different vibe coders out there at the moment. And, they're creating stuff to replace Slack and then, to save $10 a month. But then they actually aren't factoring in the fact that they need to upkeep that and they need to continuously improve that. And that's a lot of time that's taken up there.
And I think the biggest challenge will be we're all using it relatively cheaply now. I mean, I might pay $150 a month for Claude, for however much capacity I'm getting. But, if we've learned nothing from Uber and Netflix and all these kind of, startups and businesses, is that the price you pay at the start is not going to be the price that it will go up rapidly. So suddenly you're going to get to this position of, whilst the tradie might be using it for their books or whatever now, and all of a sudden then it's going to get to $1,000 a month. The tradie's going to go, don't know. I don't necessarily want to spend that anymore. Yeah. But then again, I think that's where the opportunity lies for a lot of businesses, as they go, hey, we can still do that, and we've got our subscription over here, so we can help you execute these things. Yeah. I think no matter what, there are going to be these people where you've got these people who are using AI and then this huge section of people who are not using AI. Yes. And they'll want help from the people that are. Yeah. They won't be going to the AI. They'll say, hey, can you help me do this?
The best thing to capitalize on right now is AI. Yeah. If you can understand AI and teach other people to do it, it comes back to the whole thing. Like even when websites became a thing, Derek, when he first started doing that, because he couldn't afford to pay, I think it was like $500 for a website back in the day. He couldn't pay that. Didn't have the money to pay that. So he went and learned how to do it, was then answering people's questions and was like, hey, if you do this, give everything there. But people are lazy. People want to pay to get things done. Yeah. So they would be like, hey, can you do this for me? Here's the money.
The thing is, for me, it's like, I'm not a graphic designer. I wish I had been. And my father came from a design background, and I wish at some point I'd sat down and gone, hey, I should learn graphic design. But I'm just not that. That's not my creative output. But I know what looks good. So if someone comes to me and says, well, like last night, I did a little poster for our local rugby union club. And I was like, hey, in 2 minutes, I turned around this thing and sent this back to them and said, should we just share this everywhere? And it was that. So we're executing these things and doing these things that we've never been able to do before. So we're allowing ourselves to be more efficient, and we're allowing the club to be more successful and attract more players and make more money and be better for the community. So in that sense, I'm like, there's where we can benefit from these things. So yeah, I think we're still in a stage where we're not all sure how this is going to affect us. Are we all going to wake up one day and go, shit, where's my job gone?
Yeah. Do you think it'll go that way?
God, that's a hard question. There's so many people out there who've got these predictions of how things will operate. I think there may be some sort of inflection where we go, hey, people are losing their jobs. So how do we protect lifestyles and incomes, and people still want to go on holidays, people still want to buy a car? What are we going to do that's going to allow society to continue on when people are losing their jobs? Is it that more jobs AI will create more jobs? Maybe. There doesn't seem to be a shortage of jobs in healthcare. That maybe some other sectors will boom and people will sort of shift into those. Maybe we'll move back to the fact that, in couples and families, only one parent needs to work. And, I can't even begin to say I have any idea what it's going
It's
to
a bit
look like.
unpredictable at the moment.
It is. I think the amount of money that these has been invested in these data centers and all these kind of things, somewhere along there's an inflection point where things either go incredibly badly or, something turns.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, it's hard to say because it's so unpredictable, but I have a feeling that it's going to have a little bit of a recession within the AI because, we have all these people that are vibe coding and there's about 20 million on different Slacks, for example, that you can have. When you have all that fragmented tools, you end up paying probably about 6 to 10 grand just on tools that you're not even utilizing. So I think on the software side, I think businesses are going to try and transition into one system where everything's in there. They've got full control, full governance over all the data, everything's in there. And then I think on the AI side, because Claude, they're adding watermarks into Claude. So people that are just copying and pasting that, and when we go to LinkedIn have just added AI slop button into LinkedIn. Google are just negatively affecting pages that are just written purely by AI with no human oversight. So there's already that sense of recession there.
But I'd argue, how can you tell? Because one of our consultants said to me the other day, she goes, I need to remove all the M dashes from this because it looks like AI wrote it. And I say, AI did write it. I say, but AI wrote it with my input, and she's like, oh, but, it looks like AI. I said, well, it is AI. That's not detracting from it's not detracting from what I was trying to achieve with the document that I've sent you.
Yeah.
Everything in it is my opinion and my ideas and all these things, just somebody else has written it.
Yeah.
So this is, I write books as well. I write fiction books, and there's a big argument about how much you should let AI interfere in what you've written. So every chapter I write, I then give it to Claude and go, tell me what you think, and it will tell me what it thinks, right? And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, and I just ignore it. But what it does is it picks up grammar issues where you go, hey, you've used this word twice in the same sentence. I'm like, oh, shit, yeah, okay, I kind of, you've used the word she too many times as, in a particular paragraph. Oh, okay, I've got to rewrite that back. So it's picking things that a human editor might pick up.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean to say I don't want it going through a human editor to read as well.
Yes.
So I think, to me, the best of both worlds is have a human editor read it and then have Claude read it, because they're both telling me different things.
Yeah.
And the human editor is much better about understanding structure and plot holes and things like that, and about whether it's an engaging story. Claude's just blowing smoke up my ass saying, hey, this is great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but is it?
And then you ask, is it? And then it's like, oh, actually, you got
Yeah. So it's often coming back to me and going, oh, this was a mistake I made earlier on. I'm really sorry. What was it? Yes. I did it. I got it to do some shelf talkers. I was sitting with one of the staff and I said, hey, look, we're just going to do these shelf talkers. It's going to take me 30 minutes to do these. And it did 6 of them. And as the last one came out of the printer, I looked at it and just went, Claude, where did you get the price from? And Claude just went, I made the price up.
Yeah.
I'm just like, why did you make the price up? He goes, I made the price up on all of them. And the descriptions. I mean, it got the descriptions pretty well.
Yeah.
But it made the price up. I'm like, but you have access to the back end of the Shopify systems. Why have you made the price up? And he was like, oh, yeah, I should have gone and looked in Shopify. I was like, Jesus fucking It's like, sometimes it's like working with Mike, because I got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, 2 boys, right? So the 7-year-old, the 10-year-old, I can digress from the story here, but this is what it's like working with AI sometimes, right? I take the 10-year-old to school this morning at 7:15 because he's got band practice. The 7-year-old wants to come with me because he obviously can't stay in the house alone. And the school's 4 minutes away. So he's like, I jump in the car. So we load all the car up. They were staying at their mum's the night before, so they'd arrived with me that morning. So stuff's come out of her car, gone into my car. They've watched their iPads for about half an hour. We're taking them out of the house. We get to the school, my 10-year-old who's sitting in the back goes, I forgot my shoes. And I'm just like, oh, Jesus Christ, how can you walk out the house without your shoes? And he thinks it's hilarious. My 7-year-old thinks it's equally hilarious. Yeah. I'm trying not to laugh because it is hilarious. As frustrating it is, I'm like, look, it's 8 minutes out of my time to go there and back again to go and get his shoes. So he gets out, goes into band practice because he doesn't want to be late for band practice. And he's taken my 7-year-old shoes because they're not much difference between the pair of them, and he can wear my 7-year-old shoes. So he's gone to band practice in my 7-year-old shoes. We'll go back and get the 10-year-old shoes, bring them back to school. The 7-year-old will then go down to the hall to swap the shoes out while the 10-year-old's in band practice. Go back to the house. I pull up in the driveway, open up the garage. The 7-year-old runs in. He's not in any shoes. He grabs his Crocs. He puts his Crocs in and comes running out with the 10-year-old shoes. We go all the way down, back to the school. 7-year-old gets out of the car, runs down to the hall to take the new shoes to the 10-year-old, only to realise when he's got to the hall, he's picked up 2 different shoes.
Oh, no.
So he then runs back to me and goes, I've got the wrong shoe. And I said, what? He's picked up my partner's, her training shoes, which were in the garage as well. He's got one of hers and one of my, one of the 10-year-olds. And I'm just like, fucking cool. And I'm trying not to be angry with him, but I can't be angry because it's hilarious. Because all I can think of now is my 10-year-old doing band practice, playing his trombone in one shoe. And I'm trying to go, anyway, my point of that is what it feels like dealing with AI sometimes, is that they're picking up the wrong shoe. Yeah. All the intentions are good. They want to help, but every now and again, they're just going to pick up the wrong shoe or forget their shoes completely. But if you keep reminding them and you keep training them, and eventually you kind of get to the point where they're remembering their own shoes and they're efficient enough, most of the time my 2 are loading their bags up and everything into the car themselves. But that's kind of how I feel it is with AI, and that's kind of how I feel it is with staff. They're never going to get everything right day one. You've got to just keep drilling it into them, training them, and eventually what you want is team members that are better than you at everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was gone off on a complete tangent there about my son's shoes.
That's all right. So in terms of marketing mistakes that you see, what are the top ones that you see?
People are it's not more of a mistake, it's more of there's lots of little mistakes. People do stupid things in marketing, or they just don't do any marketing. The 2 things I would say is, number 1, they forget to do any marketing when they're busy. So all of a sudden then there's a downturn and they go, shit, we need to do some marketing. Yeah. Life doesn't work like that. You need to be doing stuff all the time, rather than just panicking when things are down. And then the other idea that I've now completely forgotten because I've gone off on a tangent about that one. Yeah, it's not so much doing little things wrong. It's always the last thing on a company's mind. Yeah,
and the first to get cut.
Yeah, and they don't understand that marketing. I think marketing has a marketing problem, right? Marketing has a branding problem. It's not marketing, it's growth.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The question isn't how are you marketing your business, it's how are you growing your business. Yes. And when you ask that to people, they're like, yeah, I don't know. So how do new customers find out about you? What about the old customers who haven't bought from you in the last year? What have you done? That's the thing I think the mistake people make. Is they go, we'll just have someone doing our social media.
Yep.
Well, that's no good, because is that actually growing the business? So that's the mistake I think all businesses make one way or another, somewhere along the line, that they don't put enough importance in marketing because they think it's marketing. They think it's the colouring in department. They don't sit there and ask that bigger picture. How are we growing our business? Where's our new clients coming from? So we've got a boozy corporate lunch on Friday at Blackbird. We've got 60 people coming along. If you're free, there's a spare ticket if you're not doing anything Friday. That's an opportunity for me to stand up in front of 60 people and remind them who I am and talk to them. And I'm not going to stand up in front of them and say, here's everything we do. Here's a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be there and be present and talk to them. And hope they have a good lunch and then hope that they go out and talk to us about their clients. So I think that the answer to your question is the biggest mistake businesses make is confuse growth and marketing and think that marketing isn't important, growth is important, because if you don't grow, you die. And I think a lot of businesses need to sit there and ask that honest question is, how are new people finding our business? How are new customers finding our business? Because if they can't answer that really quickly and really simply, then they're going to be in trouble. And if they're not in trouble now, they'll be in trouble later. And if the answer is word of mouth, then eventually they will still be in trouble.
Yeah.
You cannot be reliant on other people talking about you. It's great.
It is. And it's organic. And
when people come to you and say, hey, so-and-so said you're awesome, you've done, the sale's done. They want to work with you. But you can't be reliant on that. Because what I say to everyone is that at some point, word of mouth will stop. Even if it doesn't stop permanently, what if it stops for 2 weeks? What if people stop talking about you for 2 weeks? Or what if people stop talking about you for a month? And they're like, yeah, actually, that would be really bad. So what are you doing to stop that happening? How are you nurturing the people that are talking about you? How are you nurturing your customer base so that you're still front of mind, so that they are still talking about you? So that's the big mistake, is not understanding that marketing equals growth and thinking marketing is a bit of social media, or I need to be more of an influence. It comes back to the mechanic analogy as well. It's that, people are going, people don't understand generally how things work underneath the bonnet of a car. So if you sit there and go, well, we're not going fast enough, we need to drive faster. That's not how it works here. Your car can't go that fast. You've got something wrong with the car, or you've only got 3 wheels. So we can't just sit there and put our foot down on the accelerator and sit there and go, hey, we're going to go faster. We're going to get it does. That's not how things work. Yeah. So everything has to be right. And that's where marketing is like, yeah, okay, we're going to make sure that all the wheels are pumped up, that the engine's got oil in it, that we've got petrol to go far enough, we've got the right driver. I'm taking this metaphor way too far than it needs to go. But that's my point.
Yeah.
Marketing is a lot of those things, but the eventual thing is that we want the car to go faster.
I think another thing which kind of piggybacks off that, the growth side of stuff, is seeing things long term and, putting that into place of 3 to 5 to 10, where do you actually see yourself? I think a lot of business owners are just working in the now. And this also comes back to the leads type of thing, where they're like, oh, it's a slow period, I need more leads. Well, you don't need more leads. You need a system in place that makes that predictable, so that when it's winter, for example, and you're selling pools, you can still be selling pools in winter.
Yeah. Or you sit there and go, hey, it's winter, we're not going to sell any pools for 2 months. So let's not worry about it.
Yeah.
Let's sell so many pools in the other 10 months or the other 9 months that it doesn't matter if we don't sell any pools in 3 months. Because our business has that system in place, it has that process in place. It sits there and accepts that there are parts of the year and parts of the days that things won't sell. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, despite the fact that I know this, and I've worked with the Queensland government, I've coached 350 businesses, mentored 350 businesses in the last 8-9 years. I'm spending Thursday doing exactly that same with 5 different businesses on Thursday. And I still have my own side business now, which is in its 3rd week. And I'm sitting there going, why is it not successful after 3 weeks? Why is it not? Where's the money? And I will panic. I will still panic. Go, I know I'm doing everything right. These are the things. I'm following a process, follow a plan. And I'm following a roadmap from some people I knew in Mackay and their business. And I looked at their roadmap and they were really hitting their stride month 12 to 14. And I'm like, no, I'm on the week 3.
I think everybody has that. That's that instant gratification. And it comes back to like the gym, when people go into the gym in January and they're like, whoa, I'm going to be pumped. I'm going to be, lose 20 kilos. Yeah. And then it gets to like the 3rd week of January and it just, boom, dies off.
Why have I not achieved the gains in 3 to 4 weeks when you sit there and go, this is a 6-month, 12-month process. Yeah. And I drum that into myself all the time. but somewhere always deep inside you, that person inside isn't listening,
Mm.
you know, because that person inside is an idiot, you know, and you just have to sit there and go, okay, I need to put idiot Simon aside and just really kind of, you know,
Yeah.
have, which is why I think it's often really good to have business partners and coaches and mentors who are sitting there slapping you, just going, stop being stupid. There's a plan here.
Yeah.
Okay. Month one, you might only make $40,000, $60,000, $50,000, right? Okay, month one, that's fine. But then month two, we're going to make 60,000. Then month three, we're going to make 70,000. Okay, and by the time we're hitting next year, you're going to be doing 80, 90, $100,000 months. You're like, yeah, I know. I'm like, but you still beat yourself up, even though you've said the same thing to 350 other businesses.
Yeah.
It's a struggle.
Yeah. Coming into that, you say that business is lonely as fuck,
Yeah.
which it is, and it can be very hard. How does that kind of look? How does business look for you when it comes into that?
Look, I think it has been lonely. I think that was what caused a lot of the problems in my first business, because I didn't listen to people, and I, to a degree, still don't. But I do now like listening to people, even if they've got a differing opinion to me, because that helps me reinforce and challenge my beliefs.
Yeah.
So I like to have an argument with people about why things are working and things aren't working. But yeah, it's a struggle because you're the only person who's lived that to fully. So when someone comes in and goes, why don't you try this, and you're just like, I've already tried it. What are you talking about? You know, you get frustrated with people because they haven't lived the challenges that you've lived.
Yeah.
But I think you have to, you've kind of got to get past that. And, you know, I've got a friend of mine who's staying at my house tonight. He lives on the Sunshine Coast. He'll come down every fortnight. And I said to him, hey, I want to talk to you Tuesday afternoon. I want to ask you why. I want to ask you whether we should do this or this or this. And I know he'll sit there and give me an honest answer. Now, whether it's the right answer or the wrong answer, this is the thing I think all business owners should do is number one, have this network of people that you talk to, right? Even if you're going for coffee, going for lunch, playing golf, whatever it is, going to a Broncos match, whatever the things that you want to do that with them, even if it's a barbecue on a Saturday afternoon, and talk to them about the business. You will never have that. There's no light bulb moment. There's no enlightenment. There's no suddenly where you go, aha, this is, you know, it's, again, anyone who believes that, you know, is deluding themselves. The idea that J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter and smashed it out in 5 days, which I think the story goes that she was caught on a train and she came up with all these characters while she was stuck on a train for 5 hours one day, and she went home and wrote the books in 2 weeks, and then blah, 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 got a book deal. That shows you a microcosm of those 5 hours she was sitting on a train, right? She'd spent years trying to work out what it was that she was going to write. After she'd written the first book, an agent for her, spent 2 years trying to sell these books into people. So there's this, you know, I'm paraphrasing the story there, but there's this huge amount of work that goes on in all of these things. So for you to believe that you're going to get this light bulb moment, all of a sudden your business is going to be transformed, it's just, that's not how it works. If you talk to lots of different people and go, hey, this is what's happening in my business, this is what I'm doing, I'd love your input, I'd love your opinion. What will happen is you'll get lots of differing opinions, you get lots of people suggesting things, having ideas. And what you do is you take those pieces away, the bits that you go, hey, that makes sense. I like that bit over there. They've given me 10 ideas. The other 9 of them, you know, but that one I really like. So let's take that idea from there, that idea from there, that idea from there. And you start building this puzzle of how the business should look by taking key things, key ideas, key suggestions from whether you're listening to a podcast or whether you're talking to a friend or whether you're, you know, sitting in a meeting or watching a TV show. Just taking in as much information and learning and asking and talking to people and having conversations is, I think, what makes business easier, improves. When you sit in a bunker or a silo and don't have a conversation with anyone, don't talk about anything, don't explain what your problems are to anybody, that's when it will fail.
Yeah.
And avoid that at all costs. So go to a lunch, go to a networking event.
Yeah.
because all of a sudden you might have someone who's just giving you a little tidbit of information at one of those events where you go, actually, that's really useful.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going to take that. If there's somebody out there that's deciding between a fractional CMO versus in-house, an agency, what's like the pros and cons, I guess, of each?
Look, the three things, that's quite a simple one, actually. Hiring someone yourself is the cheapest option.
Yeah.
But you'll only get the skills that person brings. Hiring an agency, you'll get all the skills that are involved in that agency, which is often multiple different skills, multiple skill sets, but it's the most expensive option. But it's easy to switch on and off, and those kind of things. And you can sit there and go, hey, can you guys do this? And and to a degree, I would say agencies are probably a little bit more reactive and able to react quicker, than maybe other solutions are. The solution in the middle, which is that fractional option, is having, I think, the best of both worlds. There's definitely, not going to lie, but there's definitely negatives in that. But you can sit there and say, hey, I just want someone one day a week. I want them to come in my business. I want them to be part of the team. You don't really get that from an agency. They don't, they're still a bit sort of standoffish. Some agencies do, but by and large they don't. I want someone to come in this office, be part of the team. I want them long term. I want them on for the next 12 months. I want them from day one through to day 365. I want them to manage all this through, and I want them to feel that they're responsible. Again, agencies are like, oh, it's not our responsibility. You're still making those decisions yourself, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So I think that to me is that's the cost then sits in the middle of having an agency or having, your own member of staff. But again, it's flexible. You can get the skills that you need. So I think that's really, for me, it's that it offers that flexibility, generally a better price point than an agency. But again, the downside is you're dealing with that person and their individual skill set. But we have people who have a strategic person from us, and then that person works with a graphic designer or works.
Yeah, they have people in their network that they'll reach for.
It's like a remote team, effectively.
Yes, yeah.
So you still to get this. Look, it's preference. A lot of clients come to us going, hey, we're researching all the options here.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I think with marketing, it's very much down to personality and that kind of match.
Yeah.
Do they understand my business? Are they a good fit? Are they going to be honest with me, but at the same time, understand my way of thinking? I always find it's a bit different from CFOs. You don't really want your CFO to have a personality. You want them to look at the numbers and be, we don't need them coloring the numbers in any way. We need them being completely honest and
black and white.
And very sort of stoic about things. Whereas you want your marketing person to be creative. Again, it shouldn't really be a marketing person. Hire a growth person.
Yes. I agree.
Sit there and go, hey, we're making $1 million a year. We want to make $1.5 million a year. Show us how we're going to do that. Accountants can't do that. HR people can't do that. Operational people can't do that. To a degree, salespeople can't do that because salespeople still need a funnel of leads. Yeah. The only person who's going to transform your business is a growth person.
Yep, I agree. I'm would probably say I'm a little bit against the agency model, which is why we moved away from that. Just because it is what we find with clients is they'll go to the agency, they'll say, I need a website because Tim down the road told me I need a website. And then they provide a website, and then the client's like, well, why am I not getting any leads? This doesn't make sense. And you need that full system. You need everything.
We had it 2 weeks ago. A lady just said, I can't afford to pay anyone to do any marketing because we've spent so much money on the website. And I just kind of want to smack my head on the table. Just go, what the? Anyway, I said, I said to her, so you're going to have a nice new shiny website. No one's going to go to it.
Yeah.
And then she didn't email me back, surprisingly.
One of my good friends, before I met him, he had engaged a marketing person to do their website. Now he's in the construction industry, and his goal is to double his revenue and exit his business.
Yeah.
So they told him, you need a new website. Now, to an extent, I agree. He does need a new website because his website's about 10 years outdated, not been updated, But that's one part of the the
Yeah,
puzzle.
yeah,
You know, it's one piece of the puzzle as to actually grow, and especially if he wants to exit his business within, you know, those years.
Website agencies sell websites. SEO agencies sell SEO. The one thing I always said about us is we're very agnostic. We're not selling anything in particular.
Yes.
We're trying to understand what your problem is, and then we'll find people or services or solutions that match that.
Yeah.
And that will come from our network, which is how we make our money.
Yeah.
But we'll match you with the solution that is going to change your business, rather than match you with a solution because we have a website developer sitting in the office that we have to sell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I find that challenge with agencies I find that challenge with big creative agencies as well. It's like, oh, you need a big creative idea. Do you? Or do you just need to tell more people about what it is that you do? You don't need a fancy, I've seen creative agencies win awards for pizza campaigns, for pizza restaurants that then shut down 6 months later because they didn't have enough customers.
Yeah.
But they had a great creative campaign.
Yeah.
Doesn't keep the lights on, unfortunately.
No. So for anybody watching, what's your biggest piece of advice that you can give them?
Oh God, you put me on the spot there. Look, I think it's the old one about really understanding your customers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'll explain that with a story. I did a coaching session. This is probably good 4 or 5 years ago with a guy, and I can't remember the business, but it was a relatively successful business. I think he had 30, 40 staff, and I think it was a manufacturing distribution business. So, every week customers would ring in, they'd order from him, they'd all pick and pack it, they were manufacturing it, it was all sent out to the customers. Mm. And I remember sitting in this meeting with him, or this coaching thing, and I was with another mentor, and they were getting all incredulous that all this guy did as the CEO, he was the one making all the sales calls every week. He had 30, 40 staff. He could have had someone doing the sales calls, and everyone was like, why are you doing the sales calls? You should, the whole don't work on the business, don't work in the business, right? Which is the shitty management phrase that everybody, parrots out every time, and I've heard that phrase so many times. And I'm very much like, no, fuck it, work in the business. If you want to work in the business, work in the business, right? If genuinely the business is better with you working in it, work in the fucking business. And that if you're happy doing that, work in the business, right? Otherwise, work on the business. But he was making the calls every week. He'd make 80, 90 sales calls every week, outbound ones. So he wasn't answering the phone. He was picking up, he had a list of customers, and he'd pick up the phone and he'd ring every one of them every week, right? Everyone else was doing everything else. Someone was doing the finance, someone was doing the operations, everything, but he would go. And we said in that mentoring thing, why are you doing that? And he was like, I like doing it. And it was no more complicated than that. He was just, I really like doing it. I like talking to the customers. I get to understand the customers. I understand their business. I know what's happening. I know when everything's shifting, changing, all those kind of things. He goes, and I can then react to that quickly. So I think my piece of advice would be, know your customers. Talk to them every day. Talk to them every week. Call them up every week. Now, I know people listening are not going to do that.
Yeah.
Then took that advice to a guy who did staging for real estate agents. So he had all the furniture, big warehouse full of furniture. And I'd said to him, let's pull up a database of all of the real estate agents, because it's real estate agents who book their staging companies. Yeah. It's not the owner of the house.
Yeah.
Pull up a list of all the real estate agents that have bought from you in the past, bought from you in the last 2 years or 3 years, but haven't ordered from you in the last 12 months. And we pulled up this list, and there was about 120, 130 people on this list. It might even be more than that. It might have been 400, 500, whatever it was. And I said, who's called them? Who's rung them up? Do you know why they're not ordering from you? He goes, well, some of them have moved agencies. Real estate agents move a lot. Some of them have moved agencies. Some of them have moved to suburbs where they don't spend money on staging, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, so you know that? And he was like, oh, no, I just know a couple of them. Yeah. And I'd said to him, pull up that list and call them up. He goes, oh, okay, yeah, we'll give them a call next week. And I was like, no. You give them a call. You pick up the phone and say, hey, it's the CEO here. Just checking in to see how you are. How's business going? You're not making a sales call. You're just making a how's things going call.
Yeah.
And to his credit, we got him doing it. It took some time. But that's where you kind of go, that's the difference between those businesses that I think are still succeeding and still going to ride the waves of any, recessions or anything like that, is that they are still very much engaged, understanding their customers. And it's not doing surveys. It's not going, hey, let's send through a Google survey and see what they all say. It's picking up the phone and calling them.
Yeah.
Just going, how's things going? What's going on?
And it's building that relationship. And that's going to keep you top of mind every time.
And it's one of those ones where I just go, I know I have to do that myself.
Me too. I know.
Because it's me. I can sit here and say,
yeah,
this is what you need to do. But I've got, for example, 850 consultants on our books, right? And realistically, they're our customers now. But I need to pick the phone up and call all of them.
Yeah.
I just don't know whether I want to make 850 phone calls. But I could make, the point is I can make 10 a day.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, let's have a chat.
Compounds over time.
Yeah. And just gradually, let's call the ones that I haven't spoken to for a while. That's the ones that I haven't got a relationship with. Let's say, hey, how's things going? I'm not calling to sell anything, just calling to see how you go. That's my final piece of advice.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for
my
your
pleasure
time this morning.
No, thank you.
Podcast.
It's been a long. I feel like I've spoken a lot, but I guess that's kind of the point of the podcast. Normally, when I'm on the other side of it, I'm trying to, I'm trying to get them to speak a lot.
Yeah, that's good. Amazing. So, where can everybody find you?
Look, I'm on LinkedIn. Simon Dell on LinkedIn. Simon at Cemoh.com. I'm pretty easy to find. There are some other Simon Dells out there. Bizarrely, one of our clients who I mentioned, who was our first person to use Rebecca, she completely different side conversation here. She left her husband about 4 or 5 years ago and started dating a guy called Simon Dell, who lives here in Brisbane. And I've met him, and me and him have had a photo together. And I said, "Yeah, it must be awkward with 2 Simon Dells in your phone." She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I have to make sure I send the right text message to the right one." So anyway.
Oh, I can imagine.
So yes, but you can generally find me. There's also a guy in the UK called Simon Dell who photographs mice.
So random.
Such a, and there's a Simon Dell that runs 5-star hotels in Southeast Asia. No, I know them all. I know them all. That's what everyone should go say, where are the other people that are called the same? Where are they?
Yeah.
And just say hello to them. I had at one point I had 5 of them on Facebook. It was like, I'd make a comment and then Simon Dell says, Simon Dell likes your comment. I was like, well, 3 Simon Dells have liked my comment. Anyway.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'll link all those down below for you. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast because we share conversations like this every single week. Amazing.
Thank you very much.